What was the most effed up thing you saw in school? Story 1. Saw a girl stomp on another girl's jaw with her high-heeled boot for looking at her boyfriend at the next lunch table over. I heard she had to get her jaw wired. Story 2. Saw a kid throw a pickleball paddle at a gym teacher, knocked her unconscious, blood everywhere. He was suspended for some time. Was an asshole, a guy literally pooping on a teacher's desk. Story 3. A kid hung himself on a playground our senior year. I hear his brother found him. This all happened a week after two of the brother's friends, also seniors, died when they wrapped their classic Mustang around a tree near the high school. Made for a rough senior year, to say the least. Story 4. My middle school teacher did a thing where we could bring our pets to school. A kid in my class got attacked by a macaque after he tried to grab it off the desk so he could play with it and had to go to the hospital to get stitches. I was suspended and grounded for bringing a macaque to school. Story 5. Mexican gang member stabbed another Mexican gang member in the neck with a pencil in class. It was 8th grade. Story 6. He lived when I was 8. We were making cookies in class and they gave us square cheese graters to make chocolate chips with because they didn't trust us with knives. A fair judgment. Some kid was holding a few graters and pretended to be a robot. This girl shouted at him because he wasn't a robot and proceeded to take one of the graters and grate his hand. Lots of blood happened and then a pair of twins both fainted. Story 7. I was in high school in the 90s. They announced the OJ verdict over the PA system. Story 8. It was a rival football game and the stands were packed. A section of the old wood bleachers collapsed, and 20 or so students went to the hospital with numerous broken bones, concussions, and lacerations of various degrees. During the same game, I saw a guy get hit so hard in the leg that it shattered and both bones were showing. Poked ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of the school year. Story 9. I was in 9th grade. One of her classmates got drunk, stripped, and streaked the lunchroom, gymnasium, basically any place crowded. The staff was afraid to tackle a naked teenager, so we all got an eyeful. Story 10. Middle school. I was chilling in the band room, and I looked out the hall to see a kid with some sort of liquid coming out of his eye. Later, I found out some kid stabbed his eye with a pencil. Story 11. Two kids got into a fight at my school somewhere during the tussle. One kid lost his balance and on the way down threw the meanest uppercut ever. He connected on the other kid's bare teeth and pushed them into his gums. He perked up his own hand really bad. Blood just everywhere and no teachers in sight for like another 3 minutes. Story 12. OK jumped over to the balcony to try and beat the rush on mashed potato day. He broke both his legs, did not get his potatoes. Story 13. I had a Scottish teacher and an Irish teacher in 5th grade and they were great mates. I got along well with both of them as well, so as I was leaving for the weekend, I went and told them to have a good weekend. They told me the same. Anyway, I got to school on Monday. Neither was there, which was odd. The next day, the same story. This went on for about a week and I was starting to get worried. Then about a week after, we had an assembly where we found out the Scottish teacher was a fugitive. What happened was on the Saturday, after I wished them a good weekend, they went out for a party and got drunk. They then went over to Irish teacher's place, where they got into an argument. Scottish teacher got peed and punched Irish teacher, who had heart problems, in the chest. He promptly died. Scottish teacher left, got his fiancée, and fled the country, presumably back to Scotland. Story 14. Someone had taken a massive poop. It was larger than a coffee cup in width and considerably longer. So large it was impossible to flush. People were lined up into the halls to see this monstrosity, including faculty. You know, it's a small town when a turd calls that much attention. Story 15. A kid clipped the tip of his tongue off with a pair of safety scissors after someone dared him to. Story 16. A girl with bulimia tried to shout down a spiral staircase, but because her gag reflex was so weak, she vomited from a great height instead. Oh, the splash. Story 17. Some girl broke up with a guy, so he smeared his poop on her locker and peed all over it. Story 18. A couple freaking in the dumpster behind the cafeteria. For the rest of the year, people would walk up behind the dude crinkling paper and ask if it was getting him hard. Just to add a bit, 4 or 5 of my friends, I stumbled upon this event while we were coming back on campus, and one of them went to throw his trash away. It got around the school pretty damn fast. It's probably a good thing that I'm old enough that the smartphone wasn't a thing when I was in high school, because there's a good shot that one of the group would have been dumb and taken a picture that included a 17-year-old having sex. Story 19. Someone's phone blew up in our school courtyard. Rest of the day smelled like battery juice. Story 20. A girl was coming back from a doctor's appointment and wasn't there to hear that we couldn't get out equipment for recess. She opened the door, grabbed something and went to leave. The wind kicked up and slammed the door on her hand and she lost a finger. They rushed her to the hospital and they sewed it back on and eventually it was back to normal, but that was the most fricked up thing I had seen. In first grade, a boy pulled his pants and underwear to below his knees and laid down on his back. Then a girl spat on him. I don't really remember why, but I will never forget that sight. A kid in my school year stabbed one of my friends in the back, not verbally. I mean with an actual kitchen knife. We were 11. Story 21. Didn't actually see it, but the most freaked up thing that happened in my school was the time a sophomore videoed a special needs kid jerking it off in the bathroom stall from above in the stall next to him. Story 22. In my school there was a kid, or multiple kids, we don't know, who would poop in a urinal every once in a while. Story 23. They were known as the urinal pooper. Someone made a meme with the Grim Reaper going to the doors template with all the bathrooms they had done it in and the Reaper going into the last bathroom, the office bathroom. The meme spread very quickly and I guess some teachers saw it. Since there is blood in the meme coming from under all the closed doors, they decided it was a credible threat of violence. They closed the school for 2 days for safety concerns. Just a super weird story all around. Story 24. Some dumbass kids took a pair of tweezers and an old outlet that didn't even have a circuit breaker, so I don't know how he didn't die. Story 25. There was a girl I was friends with who had developed early and had pretty big boobs and considered thick for a 5th grader. Hanged with a group of 5 or 6 girls. Most of the girls in this group were short, skinny, and the pretty ones of the class, so she stuck out from that group. During recess, these 5 girls ginged up on her and pulled down, sometimes ripping her shirt, exposing her chest, and laughed because they thought it was funny. She'd fight it and tell them to stop, but they'd do it even more, sometimes pinning her arms to the side so they could. She ended up hanging out with me more and finding different friends in middle school. Story 26. Nothing that I personally saw at my high school was disturbingly fricked up, just weird. Some kids smuggled in a bunch of onions and clogged all the downstairs toilets with them. Who the hell does that? Story 27. Some kid kept pooping in the sink every week and they had to keep cleaning it up. One day I walked into the bathroom and someone had put poop on the wall. Story 28. The troubled kid had a panic attack because of a teacher. I think he had some issues at home. He was quiet, talked to no one. He always fought when people bothered him. He was something. Well, anyways, there was this teacher. She was really strict and got aggravated easily. Let's call her Mrs. Whale. We used to call her that. But she had asked him a question and he refused to answer. His head down, looking at his empty paper. The teacher exploded on him, telling him stuff like, "You will never be anything in life, and do your parents even love you?" He sat next to me and I saw that he clenched his fists and started to shake. He tried to say something, but it all came out to be gibberish because he broke down right there on his desk. No one really knew him, so he didn't know what to do. We all just sat there as the teacher kept on insulting him, not caring that he had started to shake. A nearby teacher heard all the commotion and came to check on us and saw it. She called me, talked to the still yelling Mrs. Whale outside as we just awkwardly sat there watching this kid break down. We did nothing. I really wish I would have done something, but I was frozen in place. After Mrs. Whale calmed down, the other teacher helped the kid out to the office. We never saw that kid and Mrs. Whale after that. They said Mrs. Whale had retired early, but I don't think so. Story 29. We entire school watched some guy jump from the 12th floor. Story 30. The boys in my class bred mold in one of the lockers. They managed to get milk so moldy. Some yellow fluid was all around it. We were in 4th grade and class just let out for a 5-minute break. I was with a group of girls and we walked into the bathroom. On the far wall was a giant ring of poop painted in the shape of a heart. There was even visible undigested food in the feces that, for some reason, is burned into my memory. There was a kind of a witch hunt. The principal called out students in the hallway, one by one, to question the kids. No one confessed, as far as I remember, but there was a lot of suspicion surrounding a boy who liked to talk about butts and flatulence. I'm not even sure that he did it, but maybe too many ass jokes in class and something like, "This happens, you are suspect number 1. Story 31. I saw the PE teacher getting a heart attack during class and dying. It was freaking scary. Story 32. Saw three little dudes try to jump this massive mountain of a guy in the cafeteria. He fended them off pretty good till the teachers who were football coaches managed to break it up. Story 33. I worked at an American school in China a while back. One day, one of the school buses was on the way to campus from the city, and there was an accident that students saw. A truck ran over a man riding his bicycle. The students on the bus witnessed the accident and watched as the man lay dying on the road. They were stuck in traffic and couldn't get away from the horrific scene for over 20 minutes. Kids were crying and traumatized. Most of them were elementary school students. There was a lot of grief counseling in the months after that. Edit. I had no idea so many people would connect with such an awful event. I'm sorry for all of you who had to witness similar horrific accidents. In this case, which happened in Shanghai SAS in the late 90s, the man was dead on impact, according to what we heard. May he rest in peace. Hope I was able to answer all of your questions. Story 34. Many years ago, I sat next to a kid in high school who went on to kill his mom. He would always bring in photos of homemade bombs from 2-liter bottles, flamethrowers from squirt guns, etc. I thought it was the coolest thing and was so impressed by it until later on when I recognized I was encouraging it to be a murderer to keep being violent. Story 35. A girl had diarrhea and was wearing tights and sitting in class, and the tights started getting really lumpy, but she didn't get up to go to the bathroom. Story 36. So fricked up on a funny way, two guys were yelling in the hallway and it was about to come to blows. Guy 1 goes back to swinging at Guy 2 and proceeds to miss by a mile into another girl. Girl kicks Guy 1 square in the balls. He falls back into another student, and then it dominoes into the crowd that had gathered around. The teacher that was in the way came running up and slipped on something and went into the air, landed straight on his back. I swear it was like something in a movie. No one was really hurt, but God, that series of events was timed perfectly. Watch two girls get into a fight. Story 37. One girl had a bunch of ear piercings and was wearing so many hoops it looked like chain mail. The other girl got her on the ground, grabbed those hoops and pulled hard. I will never forget the scream. The rings didn't give, but her ear sure as hell did. Blood everywhere, the girl standing over her like a goddamn psychopath, holding a very recognizable ear in the air above her head. It was freaking Mortal Kombat in real life. I had a friend that was allergic to so many things that he had to eat the same thing every day that he brought from home. I literally mean every day for years. He had a very bad day. Failed to test some things happened at home. We met up at lunch and he had 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. He said today seems like a good day to die and proceeds to wolf down both slices. I had never seen him so happy. I walked him to the nurse's office as he ballooned up. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He never regretted the decision. Story 38. There was a ginger vegan that would chew carrots up in his mouth and chase people around, spitting carrots at them. He ended up getting his head slammed into a back hook in a fight afterwards. Story 39. A giant hawk swooped down on campus and sunk its talons into the back of a squirrel's foraging for acorns about 20 to 25 yards from me. Scared the bejesus out of me. He stood on it like a boss for a few seconds and then flew off with it. This was at like 7:30 in the morning, so it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. The guy walking in front of me spun around and said, "Please tell me you saw that. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe."